It has been about a day now, 24 hours or a little bit more, since the initial reports of the Kawhi Leonard trade being finalized to go to the Toronto Raptors for the second time in his career. Um, that came out, like I said, 24 hours ago. So there's been a bit of time to sit on that information coming out. There's been more details released about what those picks are that the Raptors will be sending out. And I think it's a good time to finally talk about it a as a fan of the Toronto Raptors and someone who loved watching the that one Kawhi year, and he brought us the championship to everyone in Canada, and then moved on to the Los Angeles Clippers. And about 6 years after that, he will be making his return back to Canada. Although Scotty Barnes is probably the name for the future, the Raptors can really get that 1A offensive player in Kawhi Leonard once again. So, talking about the trade, we have it right here. Pull that up. The Raptors will be receiving Kawhi Leonard, just him, and a 35-year-old one at that. They'll be sending out Brandon Ingram, who only played one season with the Toronto Raptors, averaged a little over 20 points. Um, we thank him for everything that he's done for this team. I know that he gets a lot of hate about the some of the decision making and the tough shots, but he did a lot of good for the Raptors. Maybe not as much so in the playoffs, but really brought a good vibe to the team this past year. So we thank him for that. Grady Dick, the first round pick in, I believe, 2023, showed some signs in his first year, really broke out in that second year. Um, but this past season really wasn't able to find too many minutes at all. Jacoby Walter really stepped up as that 3-point shooting two guard, and he provides more on the defensive end, and he's also just been a better shooter to this point. So he was stealing those bench minutes and the spot starter minutes sometimes. And basically, Ingram was money. Uh, Grady Dick was money to an extent, but also a somewhat young asset. And then what the real big part of this trade is the 2031 and 2033 first round picks. As of right now, they seem to be unprotected with the new lottery situation, with those really bad teams not getting the high picks, and it ends up being everyone who didn't make the playoffs has the highest odds to get those top picks. Who knows what the Raptors could be like in 2031 and 2033? Kawhi Leonard could very well be on to another team, or more than likely than not retired at this point. At least he will be in 2033. And obviously the Raptors have a lot of young talent in Barnes, CMB. I don't know if RJ's, I don't know how long term of a piece they see him, but he's still young. Emmanuel Quickley's still young. There's a lot of guys on this team who will still be around, and the league is changing so quickly, so maybe none of them will be around. The Raptors championship run in 2019, there's no players on the team from that. Well, Kawhi now, but Boucher was the last one, and he got traded last year. So it's really hard to tell, one, what the team is going to be like. At that time, it's clearly a win now move, getting a superstar in Kawhi Leonard and kind of throwing away any thoughts about what we could be in 5 to 6 years. But it's also questionable in the sense that we don't know what the lottery is going to look like at that point. The lottery is changing for 2027, 28, and 29, but after that, the odds and who gets high picks could completely change, and it might go back to the old system where the worst teams are more than likely to not going to get the top picks, and teams who barely miss out on the playoffs probably are going to be picking in the early teens. So on that aspect, it's really going to be hard to know who got more value in this trade from that aspect, just because the picks are so far away, and we don't know what happens. If you look at the New York Knicks, if they don't win that championship, it's unlikely that anyone thinks that the Mikal Bridges trade is a good one. But because they did end up getting that win, no matter what happens here now on, um, Knicks fans, they may get pissed when they're not winning, but objectively, the trade worked. It got the team to where every NBA team wants to be. And it could be something similar here for the Toronto Raptors. The two second round picks are becoming, I believe, less and less valuable with how these players who would be going in the second round are often staying 4 years to get more NIL money in college. And the second round talent isn't as similar as what it was like in previous years. I guess we'll see more if there's going to be these 4 year college guys who are really good. They just wanted to stay to get money. They might be the ones ending up getting picked in the second round, and they may end up having great NBA careers. So who's to know in 2033 2030 and 2033 when these picks convey what the value of those will be. And then also a 2027 first round pick swap. But I think there's some weird things going on with that about who has the rights to it. And I don't really know if it even ends up being a swap for the Raptors. I couldn't find any information on this, but if anyone has any knowledge on how that pick conveys, please let me know. But getting back to what we were discussing on this end, who's getting more value out of this trade? I think from the Raptors side of things, this is a huge positive for where they want to go. I think that this series against Cleveland this year really showed what talent level the Raptors have and where they can continue to progress to in the upcoming years, but how there is still very much a need for that 1A scorer. I think that Scottie Barnes will, for the foreseeable future, be the guy in Toronto, but he may not be that go-to scorer. Something similar, and I obviously know that Giannis in the 2021 team for the Bucks was the go-to scorer, but the shot making was going to Chris Middleton. And Kawhi Leonard is obviously a higher level shot maker than Chris Middleton was then. But I think it's a similar thing there where everyone will see Scottie Barnes as the guy who's leading this squad defensively, probably playmaking wise next year. But then Kawhi is that reliable other scorer, but he's probably going to be averaging 25 plus that the Raptors can rely on in those crunch time situations. It's going to be difficult to see how this team will operate in the regular season. Kawhi will probably load manage to some capacity. He's going to be getting a pretty big contract now. He probably doesn't have to worry about too many more. He might not worry about meeting that 65 game requirement that he hit this year moving forward. So I think he's going to take as much time off as he needs just to make sure that he's ready for the playoffs. I think that this team can still be very good in the regular season without him playing on a night-to-night basis. But in the playoffs, it 100% brings a level of offense, shot creation, length on the defensive end. I know his quickness isn't like what it used to be, but Kawhi is still a very smart defender. And with the length that he has next to him in Scottie Barnes, CMB, RJ Barrett is quite a long player as well. And then you got Jacoby Walter. There can be some really fun lineups there where there's a lot of jumbo guards and small bigs. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team meshes, where in the previous years they were this really fun team. You could tell they're very young, and I think that Kawhi will bring a level of maturity that this team needs to take the next step. But it's completely going to be one of those trades that, depending on Kawhi's health, depending on how the other guys develop, we will see if this trade made sense in the future. And then I'm sure that there will be people saying, oh, it was a steal for the Raptors, or it was the worst trade that they could have made and set their franchise back a number of years. But hindsight's always 2020, and I think that this trade will very much be that, and it's definitely a risky one for Bobby Webster. As for the Clippers, I know we've been talking about the Raptors mostly in this video, but I think there's some good stuff to talk about with the Clippers as well. I think that this trade, one, just adds to their draft capital that they got from the James Harden trade. I believe they got some stuff from the Paul George trade. I was looking at a post online. I don't have it up right now, but the draft capital that they got, the young players that they got, and they add to that, they can take a swing on Grady Dick. Um, and Brandon Ingram, with how the lottery works right now, would be a great player to have on this roster to make sure that they're not one of the three worst teams in the league. And he can kind of keep them at a baseline of not a great team, but will still be able to win games for them. So, but they may still be a playoff team. You never know. They have a squad of Garland. They have Benedict Mathurin. They have Ingram now. Who knows what other moves they're going to make? Derek Jones. Um, the bigs, they don't have too many right now. So that may be an issue going forward, but we don't know with these young guys. There's so many people that they can test out. They're bound to hit on at least one of them. And I think that just adding to their draft capital like they did with this trade is only going to do good for them in the future. And it's clear that they didn't want to pay Kawhi what he thought he was worth for an extension for the next couple of years. And if they don't think their timeline is right now, it doesn't make sense to pay him a ton of money for the next 2 to 3 years. So getting off of him, getting some draft capital, getting a very good basketball player in Brandon Ingram, along with a chance on Grady Dick, I think is quite a good return for someone like Kawhi, especially with the amount of or the value that these other stars have been getting. We just saw John Morant get traded for not very much. We saw LaMelo Ball get traded for Naz Reid and some picks. We even just saw, before I'm booting this up, Jaylen Brown got traded to the Philadelphia 76ers, and it was for Paul George, which was to match the money. And he is a good player in his own right, just not worth the 50 million or whatever he's making. And 2 first round picks and 2 second round picks. So, and I think that Jaylen Brown has more value right now than Kawhi Leonard just due to age, one, and also how, well, with age, how much longer he'll be able to play in this league. But I think two picks, a swap, a young player, and a borderline all-star every year, I think that's very good return for the Clippers, and probably weren't going to be seeing anything close to that anywhere else. So as of right now, I think this is one of those trades that if I had to give it an initial grade, I don't know if I really can, but I would say that on the Clippers end, it's a very safe trade where they're getting assets, they're getting a proven player and a chance on one, giving up someone that they didn't really see in their long-term plans anyways. So getting anything decent in return was going to be good. So I'm very happy with this for the Clippers. As for the Raptors, I'm very excited to see what happens with this. I think that there's a lot more risk involved than if they kept what they were doing and maybe made moves around the margins or consolidated two of their good players to get a better one. But an aging star in Kawhi Leonard who clearly wants to make some more money before his career's over. Um, and if they don't hit right now, they don't have as much draft capital in the future. I think that could end up being not good, but I like the move by Bobby Webster and the Toronto Raptors front office to take a chance on a guy that really is beloved by Canada. I know people were mad when he left, but everyone was so there was so much love for Kawhi Leonard in Canada as a whole for what he brought to the country and the team that I think everybody is happy to see him on the squad once again. So that's it for today. There's going to be a bunch more trades, a bunch more signings that happen in the next few days, and I'm excited to talk about those. So see you in the next one.